An aluminum Android is upon us, a Galaxy S3 Plus is on its way, and we can finally jam out to Pandora on Windows Phone. All that and more in the hour ahead on the Pocketnow Weekly, the once-a-week podcast from Pocketnow.com where we discuss smartphones and tablets, convertibles and phablets, and all those weirdo category straddlers in between. I'm Michael Fisher, editorial director at Pocketnow. Welcome. And I'm joined today, all the way from Honduras for the first time in a long while, by multimedia manager Jaime Rivera. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to everybody. Good to hear you.
Good to have you back. And we are also joined once again by senior editor Taylor Martin. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I wasn't sure you were going to let me come back.
No, you're fired. I fired you on Twitter a second ago.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say one of the Carolinas again.
One of the Carolinas from Super Carolina. Yeah,
I saw on TV yesterday. It was an old episode. There's a show called Swamp Bloggers.
Yes. What is it? Discovery?
Yeah.
The Discovery Channel is the best channel that has ever been invented.
Bloggers?
No.
Loggers. People who blog.
That's our next series, the Pocketnow Swamp Bloggers. We're all going to go to the bayou and blog about technology.
But there was this fact thing that popped up on there that said that there had been a dispute over the line between North and South Carolina. So you're in the clear.
Oh, really?
There was a dispute. I didn't know that. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. We're a fighting folk, we Americans.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the preview of the podcast. We kind of whipped up this outline rather quickly, and by we, I mean I threw it together very quickly and then sent it to Jaime and Taylor mere minutes before you heard our voices begin this show. So episode 36 came together quickly because we got some crazy news this morning, but more on that in a second. I want to kick this off with an announcement. We have a really, really cool social media reinvention at Pocketnow. We finally shed our kind of... I don't know, what would you call it, Jaime?
Ambiguity?
Our last resort. I remember when we opened our Twitter account, and I opened our Facebook page, and Brandon opened our Twitter account, and he was like, "Man, I can't find twitter.com/Pocketnow. It's already taken." And then, oh man, youtube.com/Pocketnow. It's already taken. It's like, oh wow, all right. What should we get? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You tell me. Pocketnow tweets, and he's like, yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Nobody's going to use this Twitter thing. So we're done now. We instead of Pocketnow tweets on Twitter, we are just Pocketnow, which is so much better. And instead, has the YouTube change been made? Are we at just Pocketnow on YouTube?
Yes, we are. Both of them still work.
Yeah, we are as Pocketnow, but still those that have us, bookmarked this Pocketnow video, it still works. In Twitter, it doesn't. In Twitter, it will not redirect you to the older Twitter handle will not redirect you to the new one, but on YouTube it will.
Okay. All right, good. Well, it's good to get that out there, and I changed my outro script for the show so that I'm actually going to say the right stuff this time. And also, just to round out the announcements, we have another episode of the Pocketnow Live tomorrow, which is Friday, as always, and I think I'm going to be on it. Taylor, you're going to be on it, right?
Yep. Yeah,
we can't get away from each other this week. And Jaime, are you going to be on it tomorrow?
No, I have too much. I'm completely swamped. My schedule is like I am here just out of the when you sent me the invite, I was like, I haven't been there in a while. I would love to be there. And that's the only reason I'm here. But when you wrote me, I was like, can you be there? I'm like, no, but I'll be there.
See, the thing is, I knew Jaime was overloaded, but I'm looking through our roster, and poor Adam just had surgery or whatever, and everyone else I've just been talking to so much. We saw Brandon last week. Tony and I have just been able to get away from each other. So Taylor, sorry, you get to hang out with me again on the air.
It's cool. At least you can't ignore me now. So
it's true. I can't just look at your text and kind of dispassionately put my phone back in my pocket.
You are fired because of the whole Instagram gig, but you're not ignored.
Yeah. On the other,
no, that's not why I got fired. I got fired before telling him my official Pocketnow title. He didn't like it.
Oh, yes, that's right. I was trying to figure out Taylor's title for the intro, and I was like, what's your title? He's like, I prefer to be called Keyboard Master or Keyboard King, or what was it?
God of the Keyboards.
God of the Keyboards. You know what? I like that a little better now that I hear it, now that it hits my ear right. But let's jump into stuff. So I want when we jump into our Windows Phone and our iOS categories today are actually very small because most the bear's share of the news, I don't know if that's an expression or not, is in Android for the past week. But there was a huge piece of Windows Phone news this morning. And do you guys know where I was? Because I was not in the office.
No.
I had already planned to take the morning off this morning to go do a freelance voiceover gig. So, yeah. So I'm there at MIT here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm recording like this voiceover for this guy from the 1800s about MIT, and it's really fun. Like back in the day, there was no sand and it was all water and whatever. It was much better than that. But I get this. I'm looking at my news feed between takes, and I'm like, oh, Windows Phone just dropped for Pandora. What? So I kind of rushed home and whipped up this hands-on. So that's the news. Pandora for Windows Phone 8 is here, and it's awesome. Jaime, did you get a chance to download it or no?
You're going to hate me for what I'm about to say. It's funny because Joe Bill, yesterday in Pocketnow Daily, I was talking about I'm trying to remember what application it was for Windows Phone, and then at some point I was like, "Hey, Mr. Joe Belfiore, where's Pandora? We're about done with the Q1, and when you promised that it was going to be launched." And this morning we finally got the news. He's like, "Oh, I am so excited! We've got Pandora." And the first thing your buddy does is he grabs his Windows Phone 8X and he starts downloading the application, and then he starts launching it, and then it reads, "Pandora is not available in your country."
No.
And so I am like, "Oh, okay, I've got a solution for that." And so I start going into settings, and I completely remember that Windows Phone does not have support for VPN connections.
Oh, so there was no way around it.
There was no way around it. I have Pandora on Android through a VPN, Pandora on iOS through a VPN. But, Windows Phone, the Microsoft operating system, the corporate company that is into absolutely everything that has to do with technology for corporations and security and everything, they do not have VPN support on their phone operating system.
I'm watching our we have a live viewer count. It's displayed on a 4-foot Steam gauge right in front of me, and it's just plummeting into the basement as Jaime starts his Windows Phone rant. We have 7 listeners left.
So please, you talk about Pandora, because I've got nothing nice to say about it.
You're so mad. You're so mad. I would be mad too. I think I asked Tony to download it, and he was like, "Yep, can't get it over here." I was like, "Damn it!" And some commenters have started saying that as well too. And I'm sorry, listeners, I didn't mention it in the video or in the text that it's only available in certain markets right now, but I'll probably go back and stick that in after we're done recording here. But anyway, I gave it a test drive. It's interesting you say that, Jaime, because I was going to write a TLDR piece about how, essentially saying, "Hey, Microsoft, where is Pandora? You promised it." I was going to do the same exact thing that you actually did on the daily. Yeah. And then it dropped today. So I took it for a test drive. It was only a first impressions video, so I only test drove it for about 45 minutes. But, oh, man, it's just great. I mean,
no, I love the design, and I love the fact that it's free. I mean, I love the fact that you get
it's not like free Pandora. It's Pandora One. It's the paid subscription for free. Yeah,
exactly.
Which is really awesome. And I thought it was confined to Lumia phones when I heard about it months ago, but I guess not. I guess it's all Windows phones.
Now the question is, I did hear that there's a restriction that you can only hear, I don't know how many hours I heard on your video.
Right. Yeah. You're limited to 40 hours per month. Now that's for all mobile platforms. So I don't think that applies to the browser.
1.25 hours a day.
Right. If you listen every day to Pandora. Yeah. So if you're listening to Pandora 8 hours a day, you're not going to make it through a work week, but you probably shouldn't do that on your phone anyway.
Why not?
The contrarian. It's a good question. I don't know. You want to burn through your battery? You want to burn through your data allotment? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm a Spotify user, so
yes,
I'm a Spotify user as well. So I'm happy with Windows Phone. When it comes to the beta of Spotify, it's working great. So I have no complaints on that department.
I completely agree.
I also don't have a Windows Phone 8 device, so
yeah, that's crazy. You should have one of those.
I've actually not used one. I used the Windows Phone 8X for, I don't know, a couple days, and that was it.
Really?
I didn't review it or anything. I just had it. I popped a SIM card in and used it for like a day, and then Do it aside.
Yesterday I tried to squeeze a replacement Lumia 920 out of an associate of mine.
Replacement Lumia 920. You made me beg you to send me one of those phones, and you're telling me you have an extra one.
No, I don't have an extra one. That's the thing. I tried it. I didn't succeed. My thing is, Jaime, you will remember this issue. The Lumia 920 has some dust behind the front-facing camera lens.
Don't remind me. listeners, for the record, you guys are going to gag me here. When we were building the After the Buzz video for the Lumia 920, Michael had actually sent me everything before he went to Berlin. But the problem was that I don't remember for what reason I couldn't compile the video early enough, and so I remember we did another video before that. And so he's like, wait a second, I just found something. I can notice dust under the lens. I'm like, oh my God, this is terrible. This has to be on the After the Buzz. And I'm like, okay, fine, send it to me. And then when I put the video together and everything, I forget to add it.
Even better than that, the night before the After the Buzz is supposed to land, we have a Pocketnow live hangout from Barcelona where we're talking about this. We're like, guys, tomorrow you're going to see the After the Buzz video. It's going to be great. Watch for the dust portion. It's really, oh God, it's awful. And then I said something like, if Jaime forgets to add it, I'm just going to kill him.
And you literally did, man. I mean, the next day, the guy was like, I cannot believe you. And I'm like, oh, God.
Hey, man, it happens. I've done worse. But anyway, that's if you have a Windows Phone 8 device, check it out. Pandora is downloadable for free. Considering that you get the subscription service for a year, it's pretty cool. That means you can, I believe it gives you, if it's not unlimited skips, it's more skips. But more crucially, there are no commercials. And that's awesome. And that is exclusive to Windows Phone. So cool thing, feather in Microsoft's cap. I also use Spotify, but just to have Pandora. Pandora's been anticipated for so long on this platform that it's really cool to have. So go and get it in the Windows Phone 8 store. Go ahead.
So if you've got a Lumia device, how does this really benefit you over Nokia Music? I mean, I've been a Pandora user before. I haven't really used Nokia Music. So how do they differ, really?
So the thing is, with Nokia Music, which I haven't used in a little while, thanks to Spotify, I'm waiting for Nokia Music to fire up. So I've got my 920 right here. We got the rundown on the new Nokia Music. Actually, there's a hands-on video from Barcelona. And I got to be honest with you, I don't really remember what the improvements were off the top of my head. But so right now, people are jumping to the video and like going to the comments and being like, "You don't remember?" But so I don't know. I mean, how does it differ? Like I've found Pandora's mixes to be better. Okay, they do get a little more stagnant with time. But
that's kind of what I was after. Because I mean, I know Pandora will play a bunch of different stuff, and then once you listen to it all, you hit the end after like 2 hours, and it all just repeats. It's like listening to a local radio station. They're like best hits, and then they play 20 songs on repeat. So
I don't know. I'm really, whenever I put playlists together, I'm mostly a genre type of guy. So I have like rock on one playlist and stuff like that. And I like the fact that Pandora does a really good job at mixing music. I don't know. I love it for music discovery. That's me.
Right. So, and that's the thing. Like that's why it's exciting to me. Because Nokia Music, yes, you can make it learn you, and it works well, and blah, blah, blah. But Pandora already knows me. You know, I already have my station set up. I've been using Pandora since 2008. You know what I mean? So I think it's advantageous, and it's a big deal in that sense.
Yeah.
You know, plus it's absolutely one of the 46 out of 50 top apps that Microsoft was boasting about at the Windows Phone 8 launch. I'm being fed a wire. I've just got a telegram in the mailbox here that we got to talk about Nokia solar charging. Jaime. Well, why do I feel like you know what's going on with this? Because
it came out in the news yesterday that Nokia tweeted something saying "Son, here we come," and it's been rumored for a while now that Nokia is working on bringing solar charging to their future Lumia products. And, I left it as a question of the day yesterday on Daily, and I consider it to be very cool. I mean, I just find it interesting that they're tweeting this now, and there are no events planned until, probably the fall for Nokia. I don't think they've ever had events before that. So I don't think we should get excited that we're going to get the technology yet, but that's probably just telling us, hey, Nokia's working on it and hopefully it'll come. I feel, wireless charging has never taken off. I mean, if they'll bundle it in a box with me, then I'll use it, but it's not something that I'd pay money for.
Yeah, and wireless charging is a good analogy, right? Because it took forever to catch on, and it is starting to catch on slowly here in the States.
Yeah, but solar charging. I mean, I think I remember when the iPhone 4 came out with the the glass on glass on the design, and we were thinking with Brandon, it was like, what are they going to innovate with the next iPhone, which was eventually the iPhone 4S, and we're like, man, if they would fit solar panels on that back glass, that would be like amazing, because battery technology has not evolved. It is the only technology that has not evolved. I mean, yes, we had nickel cadmium batteries on cell phones 5-6 years ago.
Metal hydride and lithium ion,
and now we have lithium ion and lithium polymer, which are much better than the ones we had before. Yes, true. But the batteries have not shrunk. Right. The problem is that the technology has not allowed the batteries to shrink. So think of the opportunity to have a smaller battery with a solar panel that will charge the battery, or will at least leave the battery on, or simultaneously charging the phone with that. I think that would be really awesome. I think that's a cool solution.
They're not the first.
Yeah,
they're not the first to do this.
The Puma phone a couple years ago. Yeah,
the Puma phone, and it would only trickle charge. So you would
tell me about that. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was the Puma phone. I can't remember who actually manufactured it.
Yeah.
No.
Like, what did it run? It ran a dumb phone OS. It wasn't a smartphone, right?
Yeah, it ran like Puma. It had like a Puma interface. It had a DJ like turntable app. I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah. I remember that phone. Okay.
You basically flip it upside down, and it would keep your battery where it was while you were listening to music. So if you're actually using the phone, there's not. I mean, obviously you can't use the phone and point it towards the sun, because then you're probably going to go blind. But
yeah,
the problem is that even if you lay it down, the only way it's really going to charge at all is if you're not using the phone.
Right.
And at that rate, it charges in like, I don't know, 8 hours.
Yeah. But
that's a fair trade. I mean, when you're commuting, when you're driving from one point to another, you're not using your phone. Technically speaking,
you're not supposed to be.
You're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
But I feel that there's a good portion of time where your phone is on standby, and I think that's like a really cool idea.
So I agree, but is it worth the technological, like the development of resources and the thickening of the phone and the increasing complexity and the increased cost?
Well, just think about it. I mean, how long has it been for batteries to evolve? We've got octa-core processors on phones, or we will eventually. We've got more RAM than phones would have ever had 5 years ago. But still, battery technology has not been able to shrink. If you want more battery power on your phone, you need a bigger battery. That's just the way it is.
True.
So companies are struggling to shrink the size of components in order to fit bigger batteries. So if they could keep the current size batteries with a solar panel somewhere around in the design, and I'm holding the Xperia ZL right now, and there are a lot of places in this glass frame on the sides where they could definitely fit a solar panel like the ones we saw in calculators 20 years ago. So I think that's a cool idea.
Are you talking about the ones that were like half the size of a postage stamp?
That one.
Yeah, like the Puma phone needed a panel like the entire side of the size of the back cover to even get the rates we're talking about, right, Taylor?
Yeah, and those calculators, if somebody stood between your calculator and the light, they turned off.
Yeah, that's a good point.
True. Again, but obviously the phone is going to have a battery. So the phone is going to be on battery power when it's on battery power, and that's going to be on solar power when it's on solar power. I feel that it's a cool idea. Out of all the gimmicky, stupid things that we've received in the past couple of years that have never stuck, this is probably one of the most ingenious moves that I've seen so far.
In terms of battery, there's at least one technology I would rather see over solar power or even wireless charging, and that's rapid charging. I think the idea was, I can't remember the university that had the breakthrough, but basically, instead of charging through, you think of it as charging your phone right now, you charge through one single little channel. The way they did it is you would charge through multiple channels across the entire cell, so you could charge at I think it was 100 times the rate, maybe more.
Jeez.
At the same amperage. So basically you plug your phone up and it charges in 10 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, so you have
ridiculous.
Exactly. So you have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. It takes 20 hours to discharge. you plug it up for 10 seconds and you're good to go for another day. That
would be cool.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. And the technology's there. They just have to shrink it down because it was designed for cars. But they said that consumer electronics such as phones and tablets are not out of the question. It is totally possible because the breakthrough was in how it's done, not
not the actual methodology.
Yeah, well, hey, university, whoever you are. I mean, there's a current surge right now for phablets. Manufacturers are crazy
current surge. I see what you did there.
Over unapologetic phones that are just sized in order to not fit in your pocket. So stop worrying about the technology being too big. Just fit it in there. It should fit.
I'm surprised we went through that whole segment without a "that's what she said" joke. And maybe it's because Brandon's not on the air.
Brandon's not on the air.
I don't know, but Jaime just made my Galaxy Note 2 feel self-conscious.
Right?
So.
Yeah. Let's move on before we insult any more phablets. Let's jump out of Windows Phone and hop into Android if it's all right with everybody. Because we have to talk about what happened yesterday, which was a special edition episode of the Pocketnow Live. Yes, the same Pocketnow Live that's happening tomorrow, except different. Instead of a reader hangout, we had a hangout amongst some of us at Pocketnow talking about the HTC One versus the Galaxy S4 versus the Sony Xperia Z. And I think we got
a 4-0 to 0.
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end, Brandon asked us for our votes. But the thing is, there was a very funny comment that somebody left here in the stream where it's like, "You guys suck. You guys are nowhere near as good as whoever because you guys are hostile to each other." Remember that? It's like, you guys are mean to each other. And I was like, you know what? Normally I just would have discounted it. I wouldn't have even mentioned it. But it's so funny because I was so angry during that hangout. I've been having some internet problems at home, so I couldn't hear anybody. Nobody could see me, and all of a sudden, so I'm mad about that. And then my power goes out. So so I lost my connection entirely. I had to come back in the dark.
As Oz.
Yeah. Jaime, I just looked like a floating head in the darkness. Oh, it was absurd. So I see it was not the most perfect hangout, and I'm looking forward to having a better time on the air tomorrow. But we talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about those handsets, and as Taylor said, then Brandon ended up asking a closing question, which device we prefer. If we had to pick one for a daily driver between the S4, the HTC One, and the Xperia Z, which would we choose? And all four of us chose the HTC One.
It was that point where I thought, wow, we should have probably had Jaime on this.
Yeah. What would you have picked, Jaime?
I think we're going to talk about it later on.
We are. Yeah, we definitely are. Well,
we are.
Let's talk about it now. Just tell me which one you would have picked now, because I don't know.
Man. I was so disappointed by the One X.
But the One X or the One?
Okay. So here's the point for our listeners. The One X.
Okay.
Here's the point for our listeners. Usually we get review units, and some of these review units we have to return, but some of them we get to keep. We're lucky enough to keep. And
don't go on any longer. People are going to start complaining the intro's too long.
Yeah, and then it comes to, for example, in my case, like iOS devices, iPhones, we have to pay for every one of them that we review. But in the case of HTC phones, these were also phones that up to last year we had to pay for to be able to review. And the One X was obviously one device that we couldn't get. And I was like, man, I was so excited by that phone in Barcelona. I bought it. I coughed up the $550. I bought the phone.
Wow.
And man, oh God, it was the perfect phone until I took the first photograph. And for me, it was so disappointing because I was sitting in front of Peter Chow at the event, and the guy was like, "It's an amazing camera," and he said it so credibly that I believed him. I left the place believing that this was my next phone.
Sucker.
And I am sorry to report that. I want the HTC One. For the record, okay. If I had right now $600 and I had a Galaxy S4 and a one on the table, I want the HTC One. It's a beautiful phone. It's the most beautiful piece of aluminum that I've ever seen. I love the display on the One X, so I know I'll love the display on this HTC One. I love so many things about it, but I hate the fact that I'm going to have to carry a phone I won't be able to take photos with.
All right, but now we were just talking off the air before we started about how the various merits of Instagram, and we're not going to do that again because we do that on every podcast. But Jaime, during that conversation, you mentioned that you are an Instagram user, and I know from experience that you do post a lot of photos socially. Are there also a lot of photos that you do not post socially that you really need that higher resolution for? Because just speaking for myself, I share almost every photo I take.
Okay, so here's the problem. In my country is not the safest country on the planet. So you can't really just walk around with a mirrorless camera down the street and just take photos. So for me, my camera is my phone. And, I have a mirrorless camera, the NEX, and I have the T3i, but I only take these cameras out ever so often because I could just get mugged for the camera. So for me, my camera is my phone. And so obviously I use Instagram not necessarily for the filters. I use Instagram for the social filters, for the fact that I could just upload everything to Tumblr, to Facebook, and to Twitter with one tap and not have to do it twice. That's the real reason why I use it.
Sure, and it's going over the cellular network, and it's getting compressed, and it's getting degraded anyway. So
it is getting degraded anyways, but for me, sharing photos is not the real reason I want a camera phone. For me, keeping photos, there are a lot of moments. We go to the beach with the kids. We go to these places, and yes, I'll upload Instagram photos, but then I'll keep these photos, and these are the photos that become my personal archive of my family. And so for me to have to compromise, again, Brandon, by the way, we're putting together the review right now. And
of the HTC One?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm halfway through it. And, just a little teaser. I mean, megapixels do matter. I mean, I feel that the camera would have been a genius move if they would have figured it out. And I continue saying the HTC One would have been a great phone probably 6 months from now when they would have figured that out.
Okay. All right. So
that's my point. So my point is, okay, if I have to pick, I don't like the Galaxy S4 more than the HTC One. I seriously don't. I prefer the design of the HTC One. I just simply hate the fact that I have to compromise, that for almost the same amount of money, I'm going to have to carry a second phone to take the photographs that I want to see.
Well, that's me. That's a good. I'm glad we had a chance for you to hear your opinion, because I wanted you out. I wanted to hear from you yesterday, but of course you weren't there, and neither was I for most of it.
Do you feel better now?
Do I feel? Are you asking me or Jaime?
No, Jaime. Jaime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you feel like a weight has been taken off?
Okay. So tell me something, guys. You guys want an HTC One?
Totally.
So you are more social about your photographs, or what makes you want the HTC One aside from the fact that it's a beautiful phone?
So I'll jump in very quickly, and then I'll let Taylor answer. I definitely do take a lot of photos. I love taking photos with my Lumia, and I am not saying that I wouldn't miss the added resolution. All I'm saying is I tested it against the DNA. I tested it against the 920. I saw how different it is. Yes, it's inferior in some circumstances. It's not inferior enough for me not to carry it as my daily driver. But then again, I'm Captain Two Phones. I usually have a second phone anyway, so really my opinion is not worth anything to the average consumer in the sense of, like, what do you want to carry? Which is why anytime somebody asks me on Twitter 14 times a day, I'm like, guys, this is not helpful to you. Also, look at my profile. But I don't mean to sound snide. I love my followers, and I appreciate the questions. I'm just rambling. Taylor, go.
Well, I was in the same shoes as you last year, but recently I switched from carrying two phones down to one phone, and I'm actually having to deal with this for the first time.
Whoa.
What do I do with a phone with a crappy camera? Because it was always carry the iPhone, use it to take all my pictures, and that's literally all I would use it for, and then have an Android phone for everything else. And now I've consolidated, and I carry an iPad mini and a phone.
Oh,
so for the
sort of consolidated.
Well, I mean, I don't go around taking pictures on my iPad.
Good for you. Good for you, Taylor.
I mean, I do it on rare occasions, like if I need to take a picture of a document or something, I'll do it for records, but I don't go taking pictures with an iPad.
Right.
So yeah, I'm having to deal with it for the first time, and I'm with the Note 2 right now. I've been with the Nexus 4 for 2 months now, and I hate every picture I ever take with it. So I just stopped taking pictures. Same with the Note 2 and the Galaxy S3 and the HTC One X. I just don't like the quality of the photos, so I just don't take pictures.
Wow, yeah. If you don't like the S3 and the Note 2 photos, then you've got a pretty sharp eye. I mean, I think most people like those.
I don't.
The problem, Michael, is you're not accustomed to the iPhone 5, and I'll be honest with you. You're just not. I'll be honest with you. I remember when people would make fun of the iPhone because it was a small phone. And I'm like, it's perfect because it's the small phone that I keep in my pocket to take photos, and then I use the other phone for everything else. I was just exactly like Taylor.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when people did those camera comparisons, and they were like, the Galaxy S3 takes pictures almost as great as the iPhone 5. My eyes like bulged out. I'm like, what? Are these people blind? Like, oh my god! And it's the compression level.
It's the compression level, exactly.
Oh my gosh, you don't have any detail. There are no edges, and it just kills me.
Interesting.
And so I just stopped taking pictures. I'll take pictures now with my Note 2 or the Nexus 4. And I make them black and white because grain on black and white looks fine.
And you know what the funny thing is, Michael?
What?
That it is a software thing. It's something that these companies have not figured out. Because the iPhone 5 has the 4S has the same sensor as the Galaxy S3 and as the Note 2. It is the same exact sensor made by Sony. And still, you get like this fuzziness when you zoom into a photo on these other phones, and you don't get it on the iPhone for some reason.
Well, it's the same sensor, but it's not the same lens, right?
Right.
I believe that's a good question. I have no idea.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. We can
I am a complete amateur. Please do not take my word for it. I just, going back to that editorial that I wrote on the Galaxy S4 has just made the HTC One obsolete.
Yeah, because I wanted to lead that in. Yeah. Go ahead and talk about that because I don't want to have you guys have a.
Okay. So
wait,
why?
Hold on. What, Taylor? What?
I was going to say, could I say one more thing about the cameras though?
Fire away, please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The HTC One. Everybody's complaining about it being 4 megapixels and all these others being, larger. And the problem is that, sure, it's 4 megapixels and other phones can kind of outshoot it in certain areas. But all the others, even at 13 megapixels on the Xperia Z, it has a great camera. The iPhone at 8 megapixels has a great camera, but even when you're zoomed in, they still all look kind of crappy. So what's the point? What's the point in having a photo that's 2 or 3 times as large but looks just as bad? It's just bigger.
You are making, I think, I was listening mostly, and I think you have made a point that I was trying to make before and forgot to make. When I compared the HTC One to the DNA and the Lumia 920, whenever I zoomed in to the same degree on both shots, they looked just as crappy to me. I don't understand.
Okay, so here's at least in my opinion why. You will never print out a photo in the full resolution of what a camera can take. No. You will usually print it out at a much smaller size for particular reasons, obviously for convenience. You don't want a big photo. You don't want a piece of paper with a photo. And on a display, it's the same way. The reason why I don't like my problem is not really in the quality of the camera on the HTC One, because I've noticed that the photos aren't bad when it comes to color reproduction. My problem is what happens when I have a Retina display computer. And for the record, guys, this is not a problem on tablets. For some reason, computers are kind of wacky in the way they handle the Retina display. They'll tell you that there are these amount of pixels, but they're really quadruple that size. And so the problem is you try to look at that photo on this computer, and it crops horribly. I don't know. It looks terrible. It looks fuzzy. So what's the advantage of having more megapixels? Well, that fuzziness will be harder to see.
Everything looks fuzzy on the MacBook Pro, on the Retina. I've had one for a week now, or 2 weeks. I don't even remember. But a 700 pixel wide photo is literally like an inch and a half across.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. All right.
What?
I want to, yeah. Yeah, all right, so I know, you've got a new MacBook Pro, which I'm pretty happy about you for. I can't make that sentence because I don't mean it. I hate you. I'm very jealous. I'm happy at you. But here's the thing. Viewers, listeners, you can absolutely see for yourselves what these cameras are like. We have a bevy of YouTube videos. We have comparisons on Pocketnow. Check them out. We have so much coverage on the HTC One. It's ridiculous. And eventually we are going to have to move off of it. But before we do, I would like to hear, Taylor and Jaime wrote dueling editorials. It was basically the Galaxy S4 just made the HTC One obsolete. The Galaxy S4 didn't make the HTC One obsolete at all. And
okay, so
cool headlines, cool positions. Jaime, you are just chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
Okay, so in the case of why did it make it obsolete? The problem with HTC is always, I've said it so many times on the podcast. HTC is the new BlackBerry. It's like you get this, but you don't get other things, and I it really pisses me off. I feel that Samsung gives me more for my money. You know, I don't have to worry if the battery is not going to work well within the next 3 months because I could just swap it. So the resale value of my phone is going to be much larger on a Galaxy S3 or 4 than it is on an HTC One because the battery is non-replaceable, because I can't expand storage. What if I want to carry a ton of movies right now and then I don't want these movies and I want music eventually? I don't have to think about that with a Galaxy S4. I have to think about that with an HTC One. So for me, you know, I think that we're gone away from... It's funny because we're going into the position where phones are getting thinner and smaller, and they're getting non-replaceable batteries with that excuse, and then Samsung shows everybody how it's done. So for me, that's the one thing. The second thing, you know, I talked about the choice of materials, and the reason why I did that is because I remember when I filmed the After the Buzz of the iPhone 5, my phone had no chips, no scratches, no nothing. But it's been almost 4 or 5 months since I have this phone, and I have no clue where the heck did I get the chips on the phone. But it's full of them.
Yeah, I was riding in a car one day, and I had my iPhone 5 without a case sitting on the seat. And I hit the brakes kind of hard, and it slid onto the floorboard, which is just a rubber mat. Mm-hmm. Nothing sharp or dangerous there. And when I sat down in the car, there was no blemish on the corner. I did that. I picked it up, and there was this huge gash in the corner of my phone, and I'm thinking, from what? All it hit was a rubber mat. No rocks, nothing. So, yeah, that's the downside to aluminum, is that it chips and blemishes really, really poorly, easily, badly.
So Jaime, you're
So aluminum. So is aluminum a better material than plastic? Of course it is. Of course it is. Does it feel better in the hand? Of course it does. Does it age better than plastic? Is the question. And sadly, the response is no. I could show you my Galaxy S3. I could show you my Galaxy Note 2. And they look exactly as I pulled them out of the box, no case used. And the cool thing about the Galaxy S4 is if I scratch the back, I just get a battery cover. That's pretty much it. I just replaced the battery cover, and I don't have to worry about my phone looking like if I loan it to my 3-year-old son. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I feel that, you know, the problem with aluminum is it does not age well. That's the problem. I mean, I had an HTC Inspire 4G. Aluminum is not new. It's been there for a while. HTC has done that before.
And Motorola did it a long time ago with the Razr.
Exactly. And the problem is it does not age well. Is it the perfect material for a smartphone? I debate it, sadly. And finally, for me, my third point is megapixels. You know,
right, we covered,
Yeah, we did. But, you know, bottom line is I feel that ultra pixels are the future. Fine, but they're not here yet.
Ultra pixels are the future, not the present. Jaime Rivera.
Not the present. So
I like it. That's
so get me an 8 ultra pixel camera, and then we'll talk. But right now, I feel that it's funny because the Galaxy S4 could probably be actually lesser in technology when it comes to megapixels against ultra pixels, but it ends up looking better than the ultra pixels. So what's the point?
Taylor, it ends up looking bigger.
Yeah, Taylor, your counterpoints.
Well. Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to stay out of the materials battle for now until we have an adamantium phone. When that happens,
sure, Wolverine.
Get some unobtainium.
Yeah. So I have a Galaxy S3 here, and I have an HTC One X, and I have a Galaxy Note 2. The Note 2, it's been mine the entire time. I got it straight from Samsung Exynos. So not just Samsung, but Samsung Exynos. They sent it to me and allowed me to keep it. It is in pristine condition. There are some scratches on the button, though, so I guess pristine's a little bit of a lie. The Galaxy S3 has nicks, scratches, cuts, gouges all over it. I don't know who used it. I got it from Joe Levi, but it's pretty banged up.
You said everything right there.
I got it from Joe, and
ask him for his Nexus 4 as well.
Oh yeah, right.
And the One X that I have, I used it for 6 months, beat and banged it around, threw it around. I didn't use it in a case or anything, and it has one tiny little nick that's barely noticeable on the top edge of the phone.
And that's polycarbonate.
That's polycarbonate, not the polycarbonate that Samsung uses, the polycarbonate that Nokia uses. Right. And it is by far, by and large, my favorite smartphone material ever.
Agreed.
But I absolutely love it, and I hate that Samsung. I hate the HTC moved away from it.
So, do you think that they did a good enough job on the aluminum? Do you think that the aluminum's gonna hold up better as a result of their history with the One X? Is that why you bring that up?
No. My point is that plastic and metal still damage, and it just depends on how you treat your phone. Personally, I've had more luck with plastic that Samsung uses, but in the same respect, they're all going to damage, and I'm probably going to end up using it in a case if it has metal. So that point is kind of moot, I guess. But the megapixels, we've talked about that. The big point is everybody kind of talks about expandable memory or storage and replaceable batteries. Those are two things that don't matter to me whatsoever. I'm not going to carry around spare batteries. I explained this on our Hangout yesterday on Pocketnow Live. I don't carry spare batteries because I don't stick with a single phone for any amount of time. I mean, I might use one for 6 months, but the next one I might use for 2 weeks and then switch to something else. So buying spare batteries is kind of useless because I have all these battery packs. So battery chargers with accrued USB. I don't even know how many. Tony begged me for some
external battery chargers.
Yeah, battery chargers. And I have power bags. I have a power bag, 2 power bags.
So why? I've just got a question then. So, like, I mean, we have very specific use cases, right?
Right.
And I happen to be in this instance on your side. I think that the HTC One has not been obsoleted by the S4. But listening to these two arguments, just sitting back as I'm doing, it's very easy to see why people would agree with Jaime. I mean, there's more utility in the S4. Seems to be there's more implied durability. So, what other reason is the One not instantly relegated to the dustbin of history?
That's a really hard question to answer because I mean it depends on your personal use cases, and for many there are a lot of people saying that the S4 is just not impressive, not something that they'd want, and I tend to agree.
Well, the other point is, are trucks. I mean, trucks are not impressive, but they have more utility. I mean, that's the point. I think that's the point. I think that's the point. I think that's the point. Well,
the other thing that I was going to mention is storage, and I just wrote an editorial on this. I just published it just before we started recording, and micro SD card slots aren't as great as they used to be. We all used to complain when people started not using micro SD cards in their phones, and it was a problem because you could move your applications over to the SD card slot. You know, they had some kind of core function with the operating system, but now there's no way to do that. Anything you store on your device, if you get apps, games, movies from Google Play, stream your music through Google Music, or even like Spotify, where I download my playlists from, my account on Spotify, everything is stored on device. Anything that you want to store on a micro SD card slot has to be either something you already own, your own music, your own digital movies, your own documents, and things like that. So really, that's really the only utility of a micro SD card slot is storing your own stuff that you already have.
Which can take up a lot of storage, and it's good that they're there. But if you have a whole lot of on-device storage, that solves the problem just as well, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right.
So I buy all my movies from Google Play. All of my music I stream from Google Music or Spotify. And games, apps, they can't be moved over to SD card. So basically, an SD card serves no purpose for me whatsoever. None. Absolutely nothing.
And that's your usage scenario. For example, in my case, I learned a trick on how to pull my music from Spotify to the SD card, and that's the reason why I use it. And I find it super cool because whenever I move from one phone to the other and I move the SD card, all my music from Spotify is moved to the other one. It's all you have to do is re-download, and it actually just detects the music and it goes again. But obviously, when I wrote the editorial, probably my perspective was more of a person that would have to cough off $650 for whichever phone, and will have to use it for 2 years. And I feel that the Galaxy S4 will be a better investment in the long run, in my opinion, obviously, than, in their cases where they're just going to have one phone, where if something goes wrong within 6 or 8 months with the battery, they're not going to send it to repair. like they would have to with the HTC One. They would simply just have to swap the battery out, and that would be it. Where if they're down the road and they keep buying music within these 2 years, or they keep taking photos and video within these 2 years, they could just send some of the videos and photos to the SD card, and therefore not have to worry of having their phone not fit for absolutely everything that they'll do in that 2-year time span. That's probably my perspective.
I mean, there are solutions for this. Like Taylor is the one who told me about a particular solution for this called Wi-Fi File Explorer, which allows you to move content without a cable, and especially on a Mac where Android file explorers don't really work terribly well. You can still move content off a device that doesn't have a removable SD card. That's cool. You know what I mean? It's good to know that you have options anyway. So in my case, that is a strong feather in the cap of any phone that doesn't have removable memory, just for my use case. I think micro SD cards in some ways, if you're not a power user, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, might be an antiquated concept.
You got a point.
I mean, and I think, Taylor, you made that point anyway. But
yeah, everything that like pictures, I back them up twice. Every picture I take on a phone is backed up to Google Plus and Google Plus. I'm about to say it again. I'm about to say it again. Every picture I take on a phone is backed up to Google Plus and Dropbox.
Right.
So once my phone starts to get full, I just delete them
locally.
All of them. Just wipe it and go.
And we're going to see more of that as we move more toward the cloud. I want to bring it back down to these two phones. And my thing is this. I think to answer my own question in a kind of oblique way, Samsung is going to absolutely kill it on sales of the S4. We all kind of know that. They have the marketing dollars that HTC can only dream of, and the resources in that respect. But I think Samsung has, intentionally, as part of their plan, did not iterated very timidly with the S4, and as a result, all the buzz they tried to generate at Radio City Music Hall with all the fluff. It came more from the event, which we're going to talk about in a second. But the phone itself is not all that buzzworthy. And the HTC One, compared to its previous iteration, the Droid DNA, and even further back, the One X, it is a much more bombastic phone. It's a much more noteworthy device. And I think, considering all the awesome reviews it's getting, it's going to sell quite well. And considering that it's on every U.S. national, with the exception of Verizon for right now. That's
as long as they can start selling it.
As long as they can move it, and I think they will. And I think the HTC One I have high hopes for it in terms of bringing HTC back from the kind of, not the brink of failure, but you know what I mean.
As long as they can get some components.
Exactly, yeah, because they have to be able to build the damn thing. But so there's that, right? But even if they can't meet orders, I mean, that's going to be embarrassing for them. But also that has a tendency to raise the buzz as well, no matter who you are.
It does.
I look at the Nexus 4.
It does if you don't have a Galaxy S4 launching a month from now.
You're right.
I mean, right now is the moment where they have to figure out supplies somehow.
But no, I don't think people... I think that these are sufficiently different that people who are going out specifically for the HTC One are not going to be like, oh, well, what? Well, you don't have them in stock? Oh, okay, I'll get a Galaxy S4. I think they're so different that...
But here's the problem. I mean, for us educated users, and obviously our listeners, we have a certain different level than the average user. That's the problem. For us, we know what we want, and we know what we want to buy, and we're just going to stick to it. But then the average user, which HTC wants to grasp right now, they're going to be taken by marketing if HTC will not publish the phone on time. I mean, if they see the phone on a counter and they get to hold it, they're going to see such a beautiful piece of aluminum there, they're going to want to buy it. But if they don't have it there because it's not available to be sold yet and it's still delayed, then, I think HTC is not in the position to put up with that right now. They really need to get this phone out somehow.
They need to get it out before the Galaxy S4 launches.
Yes. I feel that they have to figure it out.
Same time.
We saw what happened a month before. So
and they got the One X out well before the Galaxy S3, but we saw how that worked out. But this is a different situation.
This is a totally different situation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And I want to move on from this because we're going to be low on time, and we're going to be talking about this exact same thing, I'm sure, tomorrow on the live with readers. But let's talk very briefly. This has been talked to death because of the scheduling of this podcast. This is now week-old news. I don't want to talk about it for very long, but just for a couple minutes. You guys watched the live stream of the Samsung event.
Yep.
Did you? Now, I admit I did not watch the record of your live stream. So, how
dare
did
you
react? I know, what a jerk. I was in Oklahoma. Give me a break.
How did you survive that event, man? Seriously.
It was very difficult. And you know what's funny? Like, normally normally Brandon's the one at events where he's just like, you know, all you guys. I try and be positive because for some damn reason. And all you guys are always like, no, it's crap. And I'm like, no, it might be cool, whatever, just hang on. But at this event, I was totally like, I was leaning over to Brandon every 10 minutes. At one point, I leaned over to him after being subjected to like minute upon minute of this tap dancing 6-year-old making cutesy smiles and these female archetypes and stereotypes and these cheesy smiles and laughs that I just leaned over to him. I was like, I can't take any more shtick. I want to leave. They're not showing me features. They're trying to distract me from the fact that there aren't many features. I want to go. I hated the event. I absolutely couldn't stand it. And what about you guys?
Yeah, I had it on about 20% volume while I talked with everyone else. But even then, I was like, wow, I'm going to mute this and just watch.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was more about the show. I wrote an editorial about this yesterday. I always get into this groove where I'm like, yeah, I wrote this editorial. I wrote that editorial.
I used to say the same thing on the show when I wasn't busy making last-minute videos.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's more about their appearance, how they come off. They threw this multi-million-dollar announcement event and didn't have much to show. And they did. They covered that up with... I don't even know, role play.
I want to make it clear before. I know, Jaime, you have something to say, but I want to make it clear that for all my vitriol about this, I respect Samsung for doing it. I understand why they did it, and they certainly it came off. They executed it acceptably. It just wasn't the right tone. It wasn't It was so transparent, and it was so mawkish. And it was just, you don't do that for that audience. Where you get 3,000 people in the room, and it was just the wrong audience for it. And I remember reading all the comments on Twitter and stuff like that, from people watching it from afar. Like, is the audience not mic'd? Like, why can't we hear any laughter or clapping? Because there wasn't any. It was it was the most dead theater I'd ever been in that had that many people in it.
If it were
I've been on stage a whole lot. I know what a dead room is like, and it was just so painful. I felt so bad for the actors. Go ahead.
If it were a room full of basic consumers who knew nothing about technology, that probably would have been the best. It would have probably been a grand slam.
Oh, they probably would have blown it out of the water. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was a room full of tech press and
jaded, angry, burned out tech press.
Like, why are we here?
Yeah.
Where's the free food, right?
Oh God, I never want to get to that point. But yeah, so yeah. I mean, I think it was just improperly targeted, and that's a shame because I talked to some Samsung people. We talk to so many people at Samsung and at other companies after events. We know these people, and I don't ever like to see people who I like, and they're like, "Hey, how was the show?" And I don't want to tell them like I really didn't like it very much, but but that's sometimes there's a way to do that without being mean, and it's like I just don't think it was properly targeted. That's all.
I don't know. I feel that you said it right. It's improperly targeted, and I remember that I was preparing the commercial for our Pocketnow live stream, and I published the commercial on Daily. And then I was like, oh, God, Samsung's got a live stream. And I'm like, oh, man, we're going to pretty much compete with Samsung in our Pocketnow live episode. I'm like, oh, well, our audience will probably not be the best, but we're still going to do it. I feel that people want to hear our opinions when things happen.
It turned out pretty well.
It turned out so well that's been our best day in Pocketnow history.
Our best traffic day?
Our best traffic day in Pocketnow history. Listeners, viewers, thank you very much for that. Yeah. We really appreciate the audience. You have no idea how much effort it takes for us to get this right, and we really do it to bring you the best opinion, our best efforts on what we think of what's going on. And I remember as the event was happening that all the comments were flocking in like, man, I'm liking the Pocketnow stream a lot more. They're like, oh man, thank God there's this Pocketnow stream.
Yeah, I was trying to read the comments while we were streaming, and they were just flying by. Like, I had it automatically update on YouTube, and literally I couldn't read them. It was just scrolling constantly, like one of those really fast credits on a movie.
Oh yeah, where they scroll to get the next show in.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's insane.
I was worried that we were not going to have much of an audience, but as it turns out, I mean, Samsung did us a big favor. but going to the point, I think you said it right, and I think we said it as well in our live stream. We were all disappointed. I mean, we didn't want a Galaxy 3S. Nice. As Taylor would say, we didn't want a Galaxy 3S. We wanted a bold phone. I think that the Galaxy
and not a BlackBerry Bold.
Yeah, I think. Well, if you remember, the original BlackBerry Bold was a very bold phone back then.
Oh yeah, it was really awesome.
It was a bold move from BlackBerry, and I think that in this case, HTC has made a very bold move. Even Apple made a bold move with the iPhone 5. They finally changed their design, and I feel that Samsung did the same with the Galaxy S3. And we're going through the
3S.
We're going through the same problems when the Apple released the iPhone 4S. Right. It's like, oh God, I mean, it's like, come on. We were so surprised by the 4. We wanted something great for the 4S.
I think my
it's
biggest
a black hole. Oh, it got us. No, go ahead, Taylor. The singularity about the Galaxy S4 got us. We were talking about the event, then the phone came with its angry hand and dragged us backward.
Yeah, that's what I was going back to. I was going to say, I think the biggest thing that just I think the biggest thing that just killed it for me was knowing what it was beforehand. Because the iPhone 4, we knew absolutely nothing about the iPhone 4S going into it, and we thought it's going to be the iPhone 5, this is going to be awesome, and then we were just kind of like, oh, it's the 4S. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's cool. And then last year, we had no clue what the Galaxy S3 was. No clue. We knew some specs. We had no clue what it was going to look like. Yeah. So we go into it, and we're like, wow, that's amazing. And then this year, we're like, oh, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest letdown is that, if you could keep it a secret, it might be a little more impressive. But the fact that we knew every last detail about that phone, last detail, the features, everything, before it was announced, kind of killed it.
And then you get into that whole discussion about like, well, is anybody doing a real service by like reporting on these leaks and all that kind of stuff? And then there's a whole philosophical discussion. And
of course we are.
Of course we are. Right? Yeah. And I don't mean leaks. I don't mean like breaking leaks. I mean like reporting on other people's stuff and reporting on speculation and all that kind of stuff. And of course that's the business. But yeah, whatever. If there's something more impressive, then you really have it on lockdown as a company, I feel. And I just they didn't really have any reason to for this. And whatever. It's going to sell very well. The event generated a whole lot of discussion. There's a whole another sub-conversation going on about the event, about the kind of misogynistic caricatures of women that were on stage.
Misogynistic.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get into that debate because we'll be here all night and I'll fall asleep just because not because I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, but there's just so many levels. It's so incredible. My HP touchpad won't shut up. I'm sorry. But I mean, there's some really cool discussion about what a good event is and what constitutes a good event. And whatever, that debate will continue. I think Samsung is to be commended for throwing a lot of resources into an event. I just don't. It definitely wasn't the event for me. So, is anybody else? When somebody Google talks to you all the time, like repeatedly, is that sound just the most infuriating thing in the world?
I thought I was alone in that. Oh, man.
I don't know what sound. There are a lot of different sounds.
The Google Talk, like blunk.
Yeah.
That.
I hate that.
I hate that.
The one from the browser. I hate that noise.
Yeah. I cannot do it. Like it's just.
I hate that.
It doesn't matter who it is. Like it's just like I hate the sound.
Now I love the sound on Android. The Google Talk sound on Android. I do love that one.
I replaced all my notification sounds with Star Trek doorbells. So
Star Trek.
Let's move on because we are. I kind of wanted to be in listener mail by now, so I just want to touch on these last two things in Android here. I don't anymore, actually. Can we? I don't want to talk about Sony anymore because we talked about Sony a lot.
No. I don't think it's worth it. My Xperia ZL review will be in shortly, and I think I'll just go through it anyways.
Good.
There's just so much beauty and disappointment as well. And when it comes to the Motorola Codenames Uncovered, I think the only cool thing about that news is the fact that apparently we will be getting... you remember the HTC Phones a la carte editorial, Michael?
Totally. Yeah. Build your own phone.
Well, apparently, Guy Kawasaki was an Apple evangelist back in the old Mac days.
I met Guy Kawasaki back at a Samsung event of last year.
Cool. Well, he's hired by Google to bring some mojo back into Motorola. And, the guy wrote this book about enchantment. He did a really good job in making the Mac something that people would want to buy back in the time when nobody wanted a computer. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that this guy is trying to rebuild the concept of Motorola. And apparently what he's trying to do is make phones personalizable, which I think is genius. I mean, they'll bring out 3 different phone types, and then you select what processor you want, what color you want, what type of display you want. I think it's genius.
So is that
those are
happen?
Well, those are the rumors, and the guy just said it on Google Plus yesterday that, wouldn't it be cool to have a phone that's personalizable? That was on his Google Plus yesterday.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a concept that's been tried before, if I'm not mistaken.
we actually Michael wrote about it a couple of months ago.
And then we've had this conversation on the podcast before, too, I think.
I'm talking about maybe about 2.5 years ago. Someone tried this, some company, and then they just kind of nosedived before they ever got off the ground. But the idea is genius. It's always been
awesome.
great.
We currently do it with computers to a certain extent.
But how will they keep up with the constant innovation? That's the problem. You sell someone this phone, it's going to have to come at a premium price if you're ordering it, to your own spec. So what are you going to pay $800, $900 for this phone? And
well, we already pay that for an iPhone 5 with 64 gigs of storage anyways. $950.
I don't know who buys one of those. My mom buys.
I paid for that one. I paid
my mom and her husband do. So
zing.
Yeah, but you're burning me out like that Samsung commercial where the guy's parents are sitting on the line for the iPhone and they're like, "Oh, we saved you a seat," and he's like, "Oh, I moved on."
Don't bring that in. Oh, don't bring up Samsung commercials either. Like on a slow podcast week, I was going to throw that in there. I wanted to write a whole editorial about how Samsung's commercials are just the worst.
But they're the worst. But I like them. And bottom line is, if Motorola is able to pull this off, I don't think that Motorola has the brand power anymore to actually make a dent. But I would love for them to start something with other companies.
Google has the brand power to make a dent,
and they're going to do.
Motorola will eventually become synonymous with Google.
Well, I think that if Google kills the Motorola brand and just uses this as their smartphone company,
I would love that.
If this is the Google phone, the Google G1 or the Google G2 or whatever, that would be awesome. Because I don't think Motorola's got the brand power anymore.
All right, but here's the thing. Like, coming from an American perspective, I think it kind of depends on where the national discussion goes here. Because Motorola, as I've said before on the show, is one of the last bastions of, American technological worth.
Agreed.
Because we get so many of our handsets from overseas. It's the only, national company.
Agreed.
Now, of course, Google is a much more powerful brand, but I think Motorola, it's been around since the 30s. So it has that cachet with at least with older folks certainly, and with people like me who've used to work with them closely. So I don't know. I think that they will keep the Motorola brand around at least for another few years. And I don't know. Looking down the road, we'll see what they do.
I kind of take that back, and I wouldn't like to see Motorola die, but I would love to see branding. Google branded phones.
Yeah. And neither would I. I mean, I owned 10 Motorola phones before I moved to a smartphone, and I love those things. And I just feel that Motorola I think they're doing a good job. If they hired Guy Kawasaki, I mean, he's a marketing guy. I feel that he could probably pull some stunts that are necessary for Motorola to win back its limelight.
Yeah. So if I can, okay, go ahead. I'm done.
Let's talk about iOS before we jump into listener mail, because I don't want to skip listener mail again because there are some good ones.
Do we have to?
So this iOS update that was supposed to fix this bug doesn't, right? Is that the thing?
No. It was just sent out there to kill the jailbreak. Please, listeners, viewers, do not update to iOS 6.1.3. It is not worth it, and it kills your possibilities to get a jailbreak. It has already been uncovered that it does not fix the lock screen bypass, which I think it's just terrible. So just don't upgrade. It's not worth it.
Boom. Topic taken care of. And finally, much more interesting to me, and this closes out our primary topics, Google Now, more likely than not, coming to iOS.
I don't know if that. I don't know if that's a good thing. Yeah, and the reason why is just imagine yourself having to search for the application in order to be able to launch the service, because on iOS everything is on apps. You can't just do it like on Android where you just pull it out from a gesture.
True. You can if you jailbreak, what you were just talking about.
Yeah, but no. In stock implementation, though, you're right. You'd have to search for the app, and that's a pain. But we don't know what iOS is going to do going forward. We don't know what kind of changes they're going to make to the platform. And also, even if it is confined to an app, I think Google Now is so compelling, and it's so critical to Google's future that if it's not on iOS, then that's a real big problem for them going forward. So
I had the thought a while back thinking, they've got Google Search on here. Why can't I just have Google Now on my iPhone or my iPad? Mm-hmm. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. I love Google Now. I use it every single day for all sorts of things. Yeah. I buy from Amazon several times a week sometimes, and just getting that package shipment notification in Google Now is amazing.
Between the package shipment notifications and my flight confirmations, it's just crazy without even asking for it. I think they're on to some real magic there. I think that's the real future of that company.
Agreed.
Or a very big part of it. That was a little,
So I get my Barcelona updates on Google Now, so I love that thing.
Nice. Did you get your jersey?
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Good. I picked up a personalized Barcelona FC Barcelona jersey for Jaime per his request when we were over at MWC. Let's jump into listener mail. So we got some good stuff, and then we got to get going because we've all got work to do as usual. This first one comes from our friend King, who greets us by saying, "Hello, Michael, Brandon, Joe, Tony, Taylor, or whoever's on the next podcast." Apparently not Jaime. So Jaime, you just tune out for this one. I love this. What do you think? What do you guys think about water or dust proofing? He asks. I love this question because I'm playing with the Kyocera Torque right now. I'm in the middle of the review period for it. So waterproofing has been high on my mind. King says, the extra resilience comes with a price. Worse, screen due to the coating, flaps everywhere. But what if there were port screen technologies that made them waterproof straight from the production line? No protectors, no coats, no annoying flaps. I'm personally surprised there aren't any yet. Or maybe Taylor knows of something. Not the rest of us, just Taylor. I'm just picking on you, King. How much more would you guys pay? Think HTC One with waterproof plus dustproof. So, and he says the Xperia Z inspired him to ask us. Dudes, I want to just talk to this, both at CES and at MWC. We saw companies like Liquipel and the other company whose name I cannot remember. I can never remember the other company, who do exactly this. They don't rely on flaps or gaskets or things like that. They just apply like an atom-thick, nano coating to the boards of the phone, and that way, if the phone falls and it gets immersed in water, it's not hurt. It floods, the casing floods, but the phone doesn't care because all the electronics are insulated. So this technology is out there, and those companies are working with carriers or manufacturers to build it into the phones at the production level. And Liquipel will add it for you after the fact too. Go ahead, Taylor.
I was trying to look it up. I've got it right here. It'll take me a second. Yeah, the other company. Yeah, the other company is I can't find it.
Nano coating, water repellent.
HZO,
yes.
With water block. Yeah.
Nice.
That was CES last year that they announced their product. So
and they were there again, I guess. In P2I as well, I think. There are a lot of firms out there that are doing this.
And there was one way back in the day, back when Blackberries were still a thing, called, it was Gold something. I can't remember.
Bond medicated powder?
Yes. Yes. Gold Bond.
Okay, good.
No, it's like gold dust or something. I can't remember, but it was basically just a nano coating technology that you would put on the internals of the phone, and it protects it from everything. So
so this stuff is out there, and I think we're going to see this, become increasingly prevalent as phones like the Xperia Z come out and draw people's attention to the fact that no, you don't need a Kyocera Torque to have a water-resistant phone. It can be thin and beautiful.
You don't have to have flaps over every port.
Exactly.
That's what kills it for me.
Exactly.
I don't care about it because I don't want to have to open a port every single time I plug my phone in, which is why which is why wireless charging
charging.
Yeah. Why would Sony do that? Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel that at this day and age, why aren't every single phone waterproof? I mean,
they should be.
They should be. Yeah. I mean, it's just
that's where we're going. I mean, I think that is the future. I really do, and I think it's going to be through methods like this instead of methods like the old school, gasket type thing. So
yeah, that's the only reason why I wanted that Atrix HD. Remember, Michael? It was because of the nano coating.
Oh, the Atrix HD. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here, this phone is waterproof. Just put it in the Ziploc bag first. Like that's what we're dealing with right now.
Right. Exactly. It's fireproof. Just keep it out of open flame. Yeah. Let's continue through listener mail here. This is
read the instructions.
You're gonna be all right, Jaime.
We killed Jaime. This is we have another repeat listener mail. This is from Neo from China. I love this. Hello, my name is in Chinese, so you can just call me Neo. I love it. I love it when people know that I can't pronounce anything.
So Neo, you take the blue pill. And
yeah. What if I told you? Neo says, I've been listening to your podcast since episode 15. Thank you, Neo. I appreciate it. And he wants to share some stuff, and I wanted to read this on this episode. I was going to hold it for Tony, but Anton is not here, but he should be for this. But Neo says he just wants to share about tablet telephony inside his country. He says, I am from Singapore, and apparently in my telco, they actually sell tablets as phones with a fixed contract. Their prices don't have much of a difference to a normal phone. And so we'd like to ask about telephone capabilities on tablets. And apparently, Neo's telephone company released the Galaxy Note 10.1 with the phone feature in place, which I didn't know existed.
I'm okay with that, as long as you use it with a headset.
Yeah, the question is, what tablet size would be acceptable to have a dedicated earpiece and telephone? I mean, anything's acceptable.
None.
Yeah,
none.
For me, absolutely none. And I would never carry a tablet as a phone, but Tony would. Tony's obsessed with the idea.
I think that the company that did it right. The company that did it right was ASUS with a Pat phone. You get a big tablet, and then you get a stylus that works as a phone.
Yeah, it's really awesome to talk on your pen. Get out of here. No,
that's better than holding a 10-inch tablet up to your head.
Is it better, or is it just another flavor of awful?
Another flavor of awful.
No, just think about it. It's like using a Bluetooth headset. I mean, I feel that as long as they figure out a way to give you an earpiece that's not the tablet, that makes sense.
Except you look like a moron holding a pin up to your head.
You look like a moron either way.
You're talking into a pin. Think about this for a second. You're talking
you look like
into a pin.
Get Smart from the 60s or so. You look like a James Bond implement. But here's the thing, right? Like, we all look stupid at some points, and most of us don't care. And that's what a lot of these comments that I actually love those comments where it's like, guys, I don't care how stupid you think I look. I like using this product the way I like using it, and so, F off. And
Michael looks crazy staring at his wrist for 3 hours trying to read one email.
Exactly. I look like a moron checking my watch literally every 2 seconds when I'm in a Twitter blast and people are like, dude, you have enough time. Yeah,
I'm making fun of you because my Pebble hasn't
your Pebble hasn't come in yet, I know.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't matter. Everyone needs to get the products that work for them. And so Neo, I mean, man, go for it. Just whatever it is. But he's got a second question. Go ahead.
If that 14-inch Windows 8 tablet works for you as a phone, if you want to hold that up to your head, by all means.
Absolutely.
I'll hold my MacBook Pro up to my head for a call. So,
he's got Neo has a Galaxy Tab 7 Plus, and he's just kind of asking generally, should OEMs make a push toward creating an interface for one-handed usage in 7-inch tablets? See, that's where I think I would draw the line. I would say no. If you want to use a product in a manner like that, first of all, it's really, really difficult unless you have massive hands. But also, more importantly, I don't think OEMs should strive to pander to a very small subset. Like if there's a niche manufacturer out there that just wants to make 7-inch smartphones, then go for it. More power to them. But I don't want Samsung, for example, wasting resources on trying to do one-handed operation on something like that.
Well, that's why
I don't think it's possible. I mean, I don't think you can rest a 7-inch tablet on your palm in order for your thumb to be able to operate the tablet.
Right,
your hands are clearly too small.
Yeah, but you could do something like that pie wedge slice, that drag on from the side launcher or whatever.
That's one thing I'm kind of confused about from Tony. He said, I can't wait to get off the Galaxy Note 2 because I want to be able to use a phone with one hand again. And the same conversation, he's talking about how he wants an 8-inch phone. Sorry, Tony, I gotta call you out, but I mean, I use my Note 2 with one hand. I get comments all the time. Your hands are so big. I've got really short, stubby fingers, but my hands are big. Actually, in the video I made yesterday, I had probably 20 to 30 comments. Is that the Galaxy S4? If my hands are big enough to make the Note 2 look like the Galaxy S4, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that.
I can touch all four corners of this Xperia ZL with a 5-inch display.
But it also has no bezel, so...
Yeah, but, you still need freak hands like mine to be able to do that. Yeah.
All right, I think this is like 4 episodes in a row where we've talked about phone-sized tablets. We're not doing this again until there's a new product to talk about. Will anybody object if I say that?
It'll be like 3 days. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. There will. Yeah, exactly. Now this week there'll be another one. No, but until another one comes out, I don't want to talk about big tablets, phone, small tablets, big phone, whatever. Let's move on to the next one. First of all, but I do want to, before we move on, say thank you very much, Neo, again, for writing in. And
sorry, I'm so tongue-in-cheek.
Good luck. Yeah, no, good luck with your phone. No, and you keep picking what works well for you, man, because that's all we can do. Our friend Alex Ong says, hey guys, have you watched Techno Buffalo's HTC One videos? No. Moving on. I'm only kidding, of course. We love John Redinger.
No, John is a good friend. John is a good friend.
John's a good guy.
John's a great guy. So he says, I'm getting confused now. I had research in many sites to check whether the Ultra Pixels camera is good or bad. With 4 megapixels, it can't be that bad. Now, we did talk about this earlier on the show. But I wanted to bring it up toward the end, and we're going to close out with this one. I hope you can give me some thoughts on the Pocketnow Weekly to share with others. He says the results that Alex is seeing are looking good, but not great. Less noise, and the quality is not as bad as Tony said, I guess, in the last episode. To which another listener, John Blake, writes in and asks, do you think the HTC One is just the beta version of HTC cameras, and as time progresses, will they up the megapixels to industry standards with the same technology, or will they stick with 4 megapixels? Right. So these are awesome questions. John Blake and Alex Ong, both of you, thank you for writing in. And, we talked about it a lot earlier in the show. I think we already answered, Alex, your question primarily. I think camera quality is in the eye of the beholder. We all 3 of us on the air today have very different opinions on it. Everyone on the team has very different opinions on it, and that's going to carry through to consumers as well. For some people, it's going to be more than enough. For some people, they'll be able to deal with it, and for some people, it's going to be absolutely unacceptable. I think the more interesting question is what works well for you, and the question that closes us out a little better is John's, which is, do we think HTC is going to advance this ultra-pixel technology? I know nothing about it. I will answer first very briefly. Yes, I do. I think they're going to find a way to do this and maintain their quote-unquote ultra-pixel branding, even if they have to cheat like Nokia did with PureView. And I think that they're going to advance. And, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the next one will probably, this is just a total guess on my part, but I think the next one will probably have a sensor the size of a 16 megapixel sensor. I can't talk. So it'll have the sensor the size of the 16 megapixel sensor that was in the Titan. If that sensor was any larger than an 8 megapixel sensor, they could have just halved the pixel size for that. I don't know the specifics on it, but let's say you just take
the Titan 2.
Yeah, the Titan 2, I'm sorry, yeah. So take an 8 megapixel sensor and double the size. And then they put 8 megapixels in there. That's what I think they'll probably do. Maybe. That would at least be decent.
I think John put it in the best way. Do you think this is a beta of what HTC is going to do in the future? Yeah, agreed. That's the way I see it. I feel that it's bold. It's a very bold move. I just wish I could swap that camera once they come out with the HTC One 2, which sadly that's like what upsets me the most about HTC. They had the One last year, and they were like, "Oh, we're not going to do so many phones now." And then they got the One, then they brought the One X Plus, and then they brought the DNA. 3 phones in a year, 3 flagship phones in a year.
Well, they were better than 2011 when they weren't flagship phones. They were just dumping phones left and right.
Agreed. But I think that they should just focus. I think they should just focus.
Incredible 17. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think they should just focus on making the one their phone. The marketing just one phone. Stop building so many phones. Just give me one really cool phone. I think the one has the potential. I just wish I could swap the camera eventually.
And you think that the camera will? Do you think that they will improve on the camera significantly in the next iteration? Right?
They have to. They have to.
Yeah.
Maybe will.i.am will make an attachment for the HTC One.
Maybe they'll bring him on as their director of creative relations.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate that. will.i.am, I love your music. Alicia Keys, I am crazy about your music and other things. But I hate the fact that you're selling yourself off to these companies.
Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Do we have closing thoughts? First of all, readers, thank you so much for writing in, and we're happy to be able to get your letters on the air, so thank you again. Taylor, any closing thoughts before we head out?
I don't have the Galaxy S4, so stop asking.
Well said. Well said. Jaime?
My closing thoughts are, regardless of which phone you pick, I think 2013 is a good year when it comes to technology. There are some phones that are good, some phones that are great, but it's not like in previous years where the difference was very big. Right now, the difference between one phone and the other is actually quite small. So I think that whichever phone you pick will be whatever suits your needs best. And the great thing is you can always just return them in your country, in the United States, and just get another one. That's the cool thing about the United States. Over in our other countries, just, play it safe. Try it out. In our cases, again, as Michael said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and each of us has a different opinion. So far, my money's on the S4, unless Michael can obviously change that with a HTC One for me as well.
Well, I will do what I can as apparently phone Santa. My new title. All right.
Also, I have to ask, am I still fired? Because people are freaking out on Twitter. They're going crazy. They think I'm really done. So
you need to start using Instagram, Taylor.
I was just going to say, Taylor, if I see an Instagram username from you before the end of the day, I will retract my entirely illegal and unsupported firing of you, which is 100% ficticious.
It's CA5PER. That's my Instagram handle. So
you're on Instagram and you're just hating it from within. All right, we're gonna talk off the air.
I haven't posted since I said I was going to quit on Phone Dog several months ago. So
wow. All right, well, everyone go find Taylor there. Don't worry about my Instagram handle. It's pretty easy to determine, but don't ask me about phones on Instagram. I just don't have the time to answer, and that's a place for my pictures. Jaime, do you want to share your Instagram handle just to be fun?
Yeah, Jaime Rivera, just no underscores, nothing, just Jaime Rivera.
What is that, about 6 R's in the middle there?
Yeah, I think that's the adequate count. Yeah.
Hey, who's signing me up for the R rolling
competition?
Clinic?
Yeah, I know. The class, right?
Yeah, the clinic.
Yeah,
after I get my haircut and manicure from Pocketnow
sub-level 7 of the Pocketnow subterranean complex.
Yeah,
sub-level.
We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it. For now, though, that is going to do it.
Perfecto.
For this episode of the Pocketnow Weekly. I like that you snuck it in. I like it. Are we done?
Yes.
If you don't find us on Instagram, do find us on Twitter. Jaime is at Jaime_Rivera. Taylor is at Casper Tech. And as always, you can find me at Captain Two Phones. You can also follow Pocketnow officially at our new handle, Pocketnow, on Twitter, as Pocketnow on Facebook and Google+. Leave us a review on iTunes or Xbox Music. And if you have a topic, question, or suggestion for the podcast, email us, podcast@pocketnow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week. Dunkin' Donuts is not the worst coffee on the planet. Hold on.
It tastes like coffee maker coffee.
What's the matter with coffee maker coffee? I make your coffee in my coffee maker. Is your coffee too good for my coffee maker?
Yeah, you got a point there.